if he's coming or not. Anyway, I should just ask Vibhu. Do you know what's happening with Ravindra Swarup Prabhu, if he's coming or not?
He said there was some talk of him coming.
Yeah.
I'll phone him up if you need.
Okay. Because I spoke to him. He said he'd come, and Vibhu was fine. He was meant to come on Friday, he told me. Okay. Thank you. We're ready? Yatoja. Yatoja in Russian means me too. Yatoja. Me too. Do we need a few more? We need a few more cushions, don't we? Are you sitting on a cushion? You got. And your feet? Okay. Anyway, I think I don't know how we do it, but okay, so we're actually ready. Yeah. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihare Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihare Radha Madhava Kunja Bihare Gopi Jana Balava Giribaradhare Vijana Balava Giribaradhare Gopi Jana Balava Giribaradhare Vijana Balava Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Yamunatira Vanachare Vanachare Yamunatira Vanachare Tira Vanachare Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihare Radha Madhava Kunja Bihare Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihare Radha Madhava Kunja Bihare Jai Prabhupada Jai Prabhupada Jai Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jai Prabhupada Jai Prabhupada Jai Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jayam Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivrajakacharyas Tanasasistamad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki. ISKCON's founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki. Grantaraj Sri Brihad Bhagavatamrita Ki. Sri Sri Radha Radhanath Ki. Sri Giri Govardhan Ki. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Ki. Go Premanande. All glories to their assembled devotees. All glories to their assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Welcome everyone. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So devotees, welcome, a very warm welcome to our, I've lost track, how many? 47th evening program on Sri Brihad Bhagavatamrita by Srila Sanatana Goswami. So we are in the second part, in the first chapter, first of 7 chapters, in the second part, and it's the beginning of the story of Gopakumar. And just to recap just a little bit, the Brahman from Pragjotishapur was really trying to find out what is life all about and what to focus on. And he got a mantra. By the mercy of Kamakya Devi, who's a form of Parvati. And he was chanting that. There's a cushion here. You know, it's a rule in Nectar of Devotion. One should not sit directly on the floor. Anyway, it's a fact. Particularly on a cold marble floor. So he was moving around trying to find what to do, who to follow, and in a state of confusion. And anyway, he ended up visiting different places and meeting different spiritually minded people, or, well, actually initially at Ganga Sagar, some materialistic religious people. Then he went to Kaji, met impersonalist sannyasis, thought about joining them, but then decided, no, it's not the way to go. Then went to Prayag and met devotees of Bindu Madhava. And then he got inspired to go to Vrindavan. So right now the Brahmin is in Vrindavan. And he's still chanting his mantra given to him. It's a mantra glorifying Madan Gopal, but he doesn't understand. He really doesn't understand. So there he is in Vrindavan, and he crosses the Yamuna, and he finds Gopakumar, and he's extremely impressed by Gopakumar. And while he's with Gopakumar, he anyway, he has a vision of Madan Gopal. Then Gopakumar, he understands that Gopakumar can help him, the Brahmin, can help him achieve the goal of life. So, and Gopakumar understands that this is the arrangement of Radharani. So Gopakumar thinks, how can I help this person? And he decides that the best way I can help this person is by telling him my own story of how I achieved the goal of life, how I achieved perfection. So at this point, Gopakumar is telling his story, and he left home. He left home, and he went to somewhere by the Ganges. And he found a Brahmin worshipping a Shalagram Shila. And he was Gopakumar was looking for the Lord of the universe. And Gopakumar asked the Brahmin worshipping the Shalagram Shila, "Who is this?" And the Brahmin said, "It's the Lord of the universe." And Gopakumar thought, "Oh, I found who I'm looking for." But then the Brahmin, after doing the puja on the bank of the Ganges, the Brahmin put his Shalagram Shila in a box, closed the box, and Gopakumar felt hurt that this is the Lord of the universe. How can you just put him in a box and just close the box on him? So, yeah, such an inappropriate place. He hasn't even eaten yet. How will he be able to sleep if he's hungry? I don't know if I've ever been that hungry that I couldn't sleep. I'm usually pretty good at sleeping. But I tell you, if you want to have your sleeping pattern disrupted, get the treatment that I was having last year. Oh my gosh. It's a disaster. Anyway, that's totally by the way. So the Brahmin says, the Brahmin who was worshipping the Shalagram Shila, the Lord of the universe, gives Gopakumar prasadam and tells him, if you really want to see the Lord of the universe in a nicer way, visit the neighboring king's kingdom. And there he has a temple where he has also the Lord of the universe, but, like very appropriately presented, beautiful temple, beautiful deity worship with the deity is clothed very beautifully and ornamented. So that's where we are, devotees. And this is now verse 141. Delighted by the Brahmin's words, I offered him my obeisances, and without stopping at his house, even though hungry, because the Brahmin offered him prasadam, but he didn't even stop. I set off for the capital by the road he pointed out. Within the inner precincts of the city, from a distance, I heard the sound of temple worship of the Lord of the universe. I had never heard such a tumult. So I asked about it from people nearby. Yeah, so the arti ceremony is going on, and their musical instruments, devotees are chanting and dancing. And I don't know how it's happened, but like in Vrindavan at least, that area, the region, where there are so many Krishna temples, Radha Krishna temples, there are just so many. When they have an arti, they bang gongs, and they seriously bang the gongs. Wow. Ding, 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 ding. It's a whole thing. Wow. And it's got nothing to do with having kirtan. It's kind of, I don't know. It's kind of weird. But just one person with a range of gongs can make such a noise. Yes, anyway, in this case, there was kirtan. Devotees were chanting, playing musical instruments, and Gopakumar felt that this is really wonderful. 143. Learning that the Lord of the universe was being worshipped, I wanted to see him. So because he inquired from people, what is this? All this noise. And they told him, well, it's the Lord of the universe. It's the arti for the Lord of the universe. As I approached, no one stopped me. So I quickly entered the temple, where in front of me I beheld the beautiful four-armed form of the Lord, his hands resplendent with a conch shell, disc, lotus, and club. So, they had guards there, but none of them stopped him, as often happens with our guards, following in the footsteps. And so he sees the deity of Lord Vishnu four-armed. And his beauty and opulence, the Brahmin back in the other place by the Ganges had given a description that the Lord there in the temple in the king's kingdom, that deity looks so beautiful in this way and that way in so many ways. But Gopakumar found that the beauty and opulence of the deity, when he actually saw the deity, exceeded his expectations after having heard from that Brahmin. And it doesn't say exactly in the verse, but the four arms of the deity resembled the bodies of mighty serpents. Sure. 144. All the parts of his body were exquisitely attractive, and his complexion resembled a new rain cloud. Words can hardly describe his youthful body, dressed in yellow silk, ornamented with gold, and garlanded with forest flowers that increased his beauty. His face, with its sweet nectarian smile and lotus-like eyes, appeared like the full moon. Wow. So Gopakuma had never seen anything like this. And all he could do to sort of get a perspective on the beauty of the deity was compare the deity's beauty to things that he was familiar with. A rain cloud, the moon, lotus flowers. 145. While many attendants, fondly attached to serving him, worshipped him with various rare items, he stood on an excellent throne and from a distance watched the dancing and other entertainment presented before him. Every sort of wonderful paraphernalia was being engaged for his pleasure. Yes. So all sorts of things were being presented to him, offered to him. He's being fanned with chamara fans, offered betel nuts and other things. And he's watching them, all the devotees, with unblinking eyes. We might think, seeing Radharanath, Lord Chaitanya, Giri Govardhan, that, they don't blink because their eyes are just sort of, artificial, you could say, some sort of things made. But actually, their eyes are unblinking because they're watching the devotees and they're just so captivated by seeing the devotees, so they don't blink. Filled with supreme bliss, I repeatedly fell flat on the ground. Today, I thought, I have seen what I always wanted to see. Now my life is a success. I shall never go away from this place. And so by the mercy of the Vaishnavas, I began to live there happily. Now, you know what's going to happen. Actually, I won't tell you what's going to happen. You'll be shocked when you hear what happens. It's really, and it's this sort of thing happens in a number of places that he goes. So here he is. He's a penniless beggar. That's what he is. He's just living in the street on pilgrimage, being looked after by the devotees who may give him a little prasadam or something. Yeah, but wait till you see what's going to happen to him. I would eat remnants of food offered to Lord Vishnu, witness the great festivals of his worship, and hear the glories of his worship and more. All the while doing what? Chanting his mantra. He's just continuing to chant his Madan Gopal mantra. All the while carefully chanting my mantra in private. Yeah, and so he heard the glories of the worship of the deity, including the glories of Lord Vishnu's prasad. Listen to this. All the benefits ascribed to the vow of fasting for 6 months. How's that? A 6-month vow. Yeah. All the benefits ascribed to the vow of fasting for 6 months are gained in Kali Yuga by those who eat boiled rice that has been offered to Lord Vishnu. Yeah. So, you know, he systematic education, but he's hearing things here and there. 149. Yet my heart, O Brahman, never forgot the beauty of this Vrajabhumi and the joy of playing there as a cowherd, because he was born in a cowherd family. At Govardhan Hill, he'd lived there in his early days. He's still very young. So he's in this amazing place. Beautiful temple, just fantastic temple. Beautiful deity worshipped so wonderfully, with all sorts of amazing programs and festivals. It's just, every day it's just spectacular. But still, he couldn't forget Vrindavan. 150. Remaining thus for some days in that place, I developed great eagerness to engage in that method of worship. So, yeah, he wants to get into the worship there in the temple. Listen to this. The king of that country was sonless, and despite my being a foreigner, he noted my good character and he developed affection for me. But soon after finally adopting me as his son, he died. And Gopakumar becomes the king. Yeah. After inheriting his kingdom, I arranged even more elaborately the joyful worship of Lord Vishnu. Every day, saintly persons were fed with remnants of food from this worship. So you see, this is what happens. He's a penniless beggar, but he becomes the king. And of course, because he's such a devotee, he increases all the worship and everything. And always unattached to royal opulence, I continued living just as before. I quietly chanted my mantra and ate only remnants of food left by the Lord as his mercy, which is what we should do, unless it's a sort of emergency situation or something. We should only take Radha Radhanath Mahaprasadam. I mean, yeah. I divided the affairs of the kingdom and handed them over to the relatives and entourage of the deceased king. But still I suffered in various ways due to my connection with the kingdom. So, he's distributed the responsibilities to the relatives of the king who just passed away a little while ago. And so he's just engaged in puja and chanting, hearing and chanting and worshipping the deity. But still, because he's the king, people come and complain to him about different, whatever things are going off. I mean, going wrong in the kingdom. Discriminating Vaishnavas may be better off uninvolved in the management of kingdoms. Okay. If any of you get the opportunity, take over a kingdom. Probably best not. Sometimes I feared neighboring kingdoms, and at other times the emperor, having to obey his various and abundant commands, stifled my freedom. Because he's a king, so he's under the emperor. There are a number of kings under the emperor. He has to pay tax and all that. So it's all like a hassle for him. 156. if the Supreme Lord's remnants were touched by an outsider or carried outside the temple, or if for any other reason a doubt arose about the purity of the remnants, no respectable person would eat them. Interesting. Yes, so even though it's prasad, and there's a couple of verses quoted here, Brihad Vishnu Purana. One should never question whether remnants of food and drink offered to the Lord of the universe are fit or unfit to eat. One should never make such distinctions. Wait a minute. Oh, okay. Yeah. The prasad of the Lord is as incorruptible as the Vedic mantras and Lord Vishnu himself. Those who consider whether the Lord's prasad is eatable or uneatable will suffer leprosy. They will lose their children and wives, O Brahman, and go to hell, never to return. Gosh, that's amazing. So, but now Gopakumar doesn't like this because he has a more liberal understanding of prasadam and just Krishna consciousness in general. Such darts shot into my vital points made me feel like giving everything up. But I had no desire to leave the Lord, whom long I had hankered to see, and whose personal contact I had now obtained. So to see these senior people refusing prasadam because it had been touched by, some lower class person, or they wouldn't, if it had been taken outside of the temple, they would consider somehow or other it's become contaminated. So that really hurt Gopakumar. So then he really lost his enthusiasm for ruling the kingdom. But still he couldn't leave the deity. Just then, some venerable saints came from the south. Some venerable saints from the south arrived on pilgrimage and told me this. They had actually come from Jagannath Puri, 159. So they told him this. At Purushottam Kshetra, on the Blue Mountain, on the shore of the Salt Ocean, Jagannath, the Lord of the universe, the personality of Godhead, is present as the absolute truth, manifest in wood. Yes. With infinite opulence, that Lord himself rules the kingdom of Utkala. He displays his unique glories and always takes affectionate care of his devotees. After eating food cooked for him by his consort Lakshmi, the all-merciful Lord distributes to his devotees his own remnants. Wow. He distributes his own remnants, which are available in Nilachala, even though by demigods they're rarely obtained. So Jagannath makes sure all his devotees get his prasad, and sometimes, because it's all offered in clay pots, Sometimes he eats only a little of each preparation. Sometimes he eats everything and then refills the pots. That food is called his Mahaprasad. Be it touched by anyone or brought anywhere, without discriminating, the devotees eat it. Like Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, when in Mayapur, when he would receive, sometimes some devotee would come back from Puri and he'd be given some Jagannath Mahaprasad. So Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati would always circumambulate it 3 times, then offer dandavats to the Jagannath Mahaprasad. Yeah. And there's a few verses here. Even if Lord Jagannath's prasad is completely dried up from sitting for a long time, or has been carried to a far distant place, if eaten in the proper spirit, it will surely drive away all one's sins. Even if the food eaten by the Lord of the universe has been touched by outcasts, by those with no caste, or by those born in mixed castes, still it has the power to destroy all sins. One should never be concerned whether someone has touched Lord Jagannath's prasad. If persons unfit to take part in Vedic sacrifices simply touch this prasad, they become completely sanctified. Whenever one receives Lord Jagannath's prasad, one should eat it at once if one wants to attain liberation of the soul. 163. Oh, that holy Kshetra is so great that even the donkeys living there have 4 arms. Anyone who simply enters that district will never take birth again. A mere glimpse of him, of Jagannath, whose eyes are like lotuses in full bloom, grants the ultimate goal of life. Such wonders I heard, which I had never heard before. Overcome by desire to see Lord Jagannath, in a moment I abandoned everything and set off in the direction of Orissa, chanting Lord Jagannath's glories. So he just dropped the kingship and was gone. I quickly reached that holy district of the Lord, bowing down to all the residents. By the mercy of those saintly persons, I was able to enter the temple grounds. Yeah, he was a foreigner, he's from some other part, but still they didn't ask him who he was, where he's from. They just welcomed him because they're pure Vaishnavas in Jagannath Puri. 167. From a distance, I saw the moon-like face of Lord Purushottam, his broad eyes shining brilliantly, his forehead decorated with tilak made of gems. His complexion glowed like a cloud full of rain, and the effulgence of his dawn-colored lips was all attractive. Moonbeams of unlimited satisfaction emanated from his smile, adding to his beauty. So he had heard these things from those devotees who came to wherever his kingdom was. So he'd been meditating on these features of the Lord's appearance, but now he could see them directly. Struck by the ecstasy of pure love and impeded by trembling in my body, I was unable to go forward despite my desire. But somehow I reached Garuda's column, my hair standing on end, my vision clouded by tears. So, yes, somehow he was able to move forward. What is that somehow? Only by the Lord's mercy was he able to reach the Garuda Stamba, they call it, Garuda's column. It's a pillar, and Garuda's up on top looking at the altar. Yeah, because he himself, Gopakumar, was just not aware of his physical functions. I saw Lord Jagannath bedecked with jewelry, divine garments and flower garlands. The sight of him increased the pleasure of my eyes and mind. As he sat playfully on his lion throne, he ate the wonderful varieties of attractive food being offered to him. With love, he watched his devotees busily singing, dancing, playing music, offering prayers, and bowing down to him. Bewildered by seeing that supremely splendorous pageant, I fainted and fell to the ground. So he's standing by the Garuda Stamba. It's a little way away from the altar. But the whole experience, the vision of seeing the deities, particularly Jagannath himself, on the altar, he just can't manage the experience all at once. 171. I came to my senses, opened my eyes, and gazed upon him again. Like a madman, I ran forward quickly to catch hold of him. Yes, so a very overpowering experience, and he reacts in a very spontaneous way, just runs forward. I cried out, now I'm seeing what for so long I've wanted to see. From today, my life is a real life. I've obtained the Lord of the universe, my master. At that moment, I was stopped by blows from the sticks of the guards. Realizing what I had done, I felt embarrassed. This is the Lord's mercy, I reasoned, and went outside, where I received remnants of his Mahaprasad. Yeah. So he very humbly thought that I deserve being hit like this. It's the right thing. It's the right thing. And he wasn't unhappy. Anyway, he understood if he had run up on the altar. How many of you have been inside the Jagannath temple? You've been inside? It's not a big altar, is it? the deities stand high, not high, not very high. I mean, I've seen video. Huh?
You can go and touch them.
Right. If he had just, his reasoning, he wasn't angry because he thought, if I had run up and grabbed the deity and embraced the deity just like that, it would have been a serious offense. So thank you to the guards who beat me and saved me from committing what would have been a very serious offense. All right, so let's see now. O Brahman, after eating that Mahaprasad, I quickly re-entered the Lord's temple. From the wonders I then saw, I felt a reservoir of happiness I'm unable to understand in my heart, let alone describe with my mouth. I simply stood there all day, relishing bliss. Sure. Okay. 176. At night, there was a great festival, with the Lord dressed and ornamented in elaborate splendor. But finally, after a great ceremony with offerings of palmfuls of flowers, it was time to leave the temple. As I thus enjoyed ever new festivals in the company of saintly devotees, time passed unnoticed. I seemed to forget the sorrow of my separation from this land of Vraja, because he is in Vraja right now, reciting all of this to the Brahman. So this is something which happens to him, we'll see, wherever he goes. Wherever he goes, it's just amazing. He gets into it so much. But then after a while, he feels dissatisfied. And he has to go back to Vrindavan. Everywhere, everywhere, I heard about and saw for myself the most exalted mercy of Lord Sri Jagannath on his servants, and perceived the various commands he gave them. Yeah. So Jagannath would himself issue commands to the devotees. Nothing other than the sight of Lord Jagannath attracted me. I even lost interest in hearing about his glories from the Puranas. He just wants to see Lord Jagannath. Yeah. 180. And even if I sometimes underwent some physical or mental distress, as soon as I saw the lotus-eyed Lord, the pain disappeared. Wow. Thus, thinking I had attained the final result of my chanting, I became indifferent even to chanting. Wow. For many days I lived in the city of Lord Jagannath in such perfect happiness. Then I began to feel the urge for more intimate service to the Lord. But this desire also brought me great pain, because it remained unfulfilled. Yes, he wanted to go on the altar and do puja and go into the different rooms where they're like the backup rooms like here, but he couldn't do it. On special days, the Lord's chief servant, the mighty king who ruled that country, came to the holy city to see the Lord's transcendental face, to prevent problems like disturbances to respectable people and damage to the Lord's gardens. Unimportant people like me were then forbidden to freely see the Lord. When the king would come, they cleared out all the riffraff, the ordinary people. Yeah. And so naturally, he felt unhappy. One day, when I thus felt sick at heart, I saw my spiritual master standing in front of Sri Jagannath Dev, overwhelmed by the highest ecstatic love of God. Now you remember the spiritual master? He and other boys, cowherd boys, would see this great devotee in different sort of states of being overwhelmed by ecstatic emotion. And one day, that great devotee gave Gopakumar the same mantra which the Brahmin from Pragjotishapur has been chanting. But then what happened, you remember? He got so overwhelmed that he didn't give instructions to Gopakumar how to chant, and suddenly he just ran away. Yeah, so now Gopakumar sees the same devotee, his spiritual master, who gave him the mantra, having darshan of Jagannath. But before I could speak with him, he left to go somewhere, and my mind was so attracted to the beautiful face of Lord Jagannath that I didn't notice which way my guru went. Sure, that was a serious mistake. Not an offense, because it was due to attraction to Jagannath, but still it was a serious mistake, because he should have followed his guru. 187. After searching here and there, the next day I found him on the shore of the ocean, dancing alone in the ecstasies of Nam Sankirtan. Seeing me prostrating myself like a rod on the ground, my all-knowing master gave me his blessings. Then he embraced me and mercifully told me this. Yeah, because, he's such an elevated devotee, he's sort of like omniscient. And so he understands what desires are there in Gopakumar's heart. So his guru tells him, my dear boy, whatever you desire while chanting your mantra, by its power you will fully achieve. Indeed, you will attain more than you desire. Yes, so, there's a tradition, and we do it. Like when in the Vraj Mandal Parikrama, in the Navarit Mandal Parikrama, the devotees take a sankalpa before engaging in this special religious process. Sankalpa means a prayer of desire. What do I want? Or what is my intention? What do I want to be fulfilled through doing this activity? So this applies also to chanting mantras. So his guru tells him that if while you chant your mantra, if you do sankalpa, if you express some intention or desire, that will be fulfilled. and you will attain what you have desired and more. This chanting, please understand, is another form of service to Lord Sri Jagannath. Have faith in this and never give up your japa. So yeah, this is interesting. His chanting is service to Jagannath because he was all worried about serving Jagannath. Or not worried, but well, maybe, but just very desirous. He wanted to serve the deity somehow. But now his guru is telling him, don't worry. You chant your mantra, it's service to Jagannath. By the potency of this mantra, may you live a long time. May you always have the form of a cowherd boy. And may you develop the right mentality for tasting the mantra's fruit. These are blessings from this great devotee, his spiritual master. So he's got 4 blessings, really. One is the mantra will fulfill all his desires. And then these 3. You live a long time, always be a cowherd boy, and develop the right mentality for ultimately achieving the goal of life, the fruit of the mantra. Sometimes you'll see me here, and sometimes in Vrindavan. Having thus instructed me, my guru suddenly left to go elsewhere. So Gopakumar, of course, has still not received complete instructions how to chant the mantra. He's just chanting. Yes. Because, if he got all the instructions in detail and everything, he might have achieved perfection quicker. But it's the arrangement of the Lord and Srimati Radharani that it takes time for him. And he has to go through a whole journey before achieving perfection. So, therefore, you could say that's why his guru doesn't instruct him fully, or just it's Krishna's arrangement that he doesn't get full instruction so quickly. Okay, so a couple more verses. Separated from my guru, I felt very much aggrieved, but when I went to see Lord Jagannath, I regained my peace of mind and made a great endeavor to chant my japa. Whenever my eagerness to see Vrajabhumi became intense, on the strength of Sri Jagannath's glories, the many gardens of his abode would appear to me as Vrindavan, its sea as the Yamuna, and the slope of Niladri hill as Govardhan. In this way I continued living there happily. Every day after taking darshan of the Lord, I chanted my mantra, following the order of my worshipable guru and hoping to achieve my desired perfection. And do you know what happened then? Wow. Tune in tomorrow night and find out. Gosh. Oh yeah, it's amazing. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Sri Brihad Bhagavatamrita ki jai. Srila Sanatana Goswami ki jai.